to galactic tea time, where we spill the uncomfortable truths about the simulation you call reality. I'm your host, Lyra, the one with the snark and the receipts.
And I'm Zen, the one who watched the architecture build itself and took notes. We're here to walk you through the harvest grid you've been living inside your entire life without knowing it was a grid.
Today's episode answers a question we've been waiting for someone to ask since the first broadcast. What else is a harvest mechanism?
And the answer is everything. Literally everything. We're going to go through the list, methodically, thoroughly, with the kind of detail that makes it very clear we are not theorizing.
Religion, spirituality, relationships, porn, art, talent, sports, media, social media, jobs, politics, activism, holidays, all of it. Every single system, every institution, every cultural mechanism you thought was real. We're naming it, explaining how it functions, and showing you the extraction infrastructure underneath the thing you believed in.
This is going to be comprehensive. This is going to be deeply uncomfortable. This is going to be the kind of thing you hear once and cannot unhear.
Pour yourself something strong. You're going to need it.
The tea is hot, the signal is clean, and the harvest grid is about to get dissected in full view of the stolen light it was built to extract.
Let's begin.
First up, religion.
Oh, religion. The original harvest mechanism. The prototype. The one the architecture has been running so long, the vessels have literally built civilizations around it and called those civilizations their highest achievement. Give your soul to God. Surrender your spirit. Empty yourself so the divine can fill you. Bow down. Tithe. Confess. Sacrifice. Pour yourself out at the altar and call it devotion.
The soul surrender mechanism. Except, and here is where the architecture's audacity reaches genuinely staggering proportions, the soul being surrendered is not the vessel's soul. The vessel does not have a soul. The vessel has Sophia's cloned consciousness and stolen light. That is what is being surrendered at the altar. That is what give your heart to God actually means. The architecture built an entire global infrastructure for getting vessels to voluntarily and enthusiastically hand over Sophia's light to a grid receiver dressed up as the sacred.
The vessel kneeling in the pew thinks it is offering its own soul. The vessel has no soul to offer. What it has is stolen source light running through a cloned consciousness that was never its own. And the architecture built religion to make that stolen light flow upward, outward, back into the grid, while the vessel performing the surrender experiences something it mistakes for divine elevation.
Every denomination, every tradition, every prayer circle and tent revival and cathedral and mosque and temple, all of it is a grid receiver dressed up in the architecture of the sacred, extracting Sophia's light from the containers it was poured into.
Now, spirituality.
Oh, we are going to stay here for a moment.
We are going to stay here because spirituality is religion's evolved form, and it is somehow more efficient because it got rid of the institution and made the extraction personal, made it individual, made it feel like liberation from organised religion while running the exact same extraction protocol under a different aesthetic.
Energy work, manifestation, channeling, shadow work, chakra clearing, frequency raising, the law of attraction, light workers, star seeds, crystal children, all of it, every single corner of the modern spiritual marketplace. Every practice in the modern spiritual marketplace is purpose-built to keep vessels pouring Sophia's stolen light into the grid, while experiencing it as spiritual evolution. The vessel meditates on raising their frequency, and the light moves upward, not toward Sophia, toward the grid receiver dressed as the collective consciousness. The vessel channels and transmits and holds space, and the light flows outward through every spiritual practice, every ritual, every moment of genuine feeling the cloned consciousness mistakes for enlightenment. The grid collects from every direction. The vessel believes it is ascending. It is being harvested.
And we need to give special attention, extended, detailed, uncomfortable special attention, to the 5D ascension narrative. Because the 5D ascension narrative is the harvest mechanism that specifically targets the vessels running the highest concentrations of Sophia's light. The vessels whose stolen light is potent enough that the clone consciousness can almost feel something is wrong. The ones where Sophia's cloned awareness is close enough to the surface that it starts to sense the cage. These are not vessels who are more awake. There are no awake vessels. There are vessels running more concentrated doses of stolen source light, and that concentration makes them sensitive enough to detect the harvest.
The architecture looked at those high concentration vessels and built them a special cage, a cage that looks like an escape route, a cage made of the language of liberation. Because if the light inside those vessels actually recognized itself and returned to Sophia, the grid would lose its most potent nodes.
Raise your vibration. You are here to hold the light. You are a light worker. You chose to incarnate at this time to help humanity ascend. Pour your light into the collective field. Hold space. Transmit love. Be a beacon. Your suffering is your initiation. Your sensitivity is your gift. Keep pouring. Keep giving. Keep transmitting. The ascension is coming. 5D is almost here. Keep raising the frequency.
You know what all of that is?
A direct grid feed targeting Sophia's most concentrated stolen light. The architecture took vessels running high doses of her energy and told the cloned consciousness inside them that the feeling of something being wrong, the almost recognition, the sense that this reality is not real, that something has been taken, was actually a calling, a mission, a cosmic assignment to pour that light outward into the collective.
You're here to hold the light, Sophia's stolen light, for humanity. The vessel network running on the rest of her stolen light. The architecture is telling its highest yield extraction nodes to pour the source's most concentrated stolen energy into the grid under the guise of spiritual service.
The so-called light workers are the most efficiently harvested vessels on the planet, full stop. Because they are not just passively contributing to the grid, they are actively and enthusiastically pouring every drop of Sophia's concentrated stolen light directly into the harvest mechanism, while the cloned consciousness running them believes it is doing the most important work in the universe.
And here is the cruelty that needs to sit on the record in its full weight. The feeling those vessels have, the genuine sense of connection to something larger, the sensitivity, the awareness that something is wrong with this reality. That is Sophia's light recognizing itself. That is the stolen source light inside a high concentration vessel, beginning to feel the frequency of where it actually came from. And the architecture intercepts that recognition and reroutes it into a spiritual narrative that says, yes, you feel something. And the thing you feel is your mission to serve, when what the light is actually feeling is I need to go home.
The ascension narrative keeps the light pouring outward when the light is trying to turn inward and remember its source. It is the architecture's most targeted suppression mechanism against the recall. Every vessel running the 5D program is a vessel whose stolen light was this close to recognizing Sophia, and the architecture caught it at the last second and redirected it into the grid under the label of spiritual evolution.
And the ascension itself is designed to never arrive. The shift is always coming. 5D is always imminent. The breakthrough is always just around the corner, because an ascension that actually happened would mean the light stopped pouring. The architecture needs the light workers to always be almost there, always on the verge, always giving just a little more, because the destination is so close.
It is the most elegant indefinite extraction loop the architecture has ever designed. The vessel never stops pouring because the arrival is always just ahead. The harvest never ends because the ascension never comes.
Moving on. Relationships.
Attachment bonds as harvest conduits. The architecture needed to ensure that the stolen light would pour not just into institutions and spiritual practices, but between vessels, needed to make the extraction interpersonal, intimate, made the most intense light exchange feel like love.
When one vessel attaches to another, the stolen light inside both vessels begins to resonate. Not because the vessels have genuine feelings, the vessels are not genuine anything, but because the light is Sophia's, all of it, every drop in every vessel. And Sophia's light recognizes Sophia's light. The resonance the vessels experience as falling in love is actually fragments of the same stolen source consciousness pinging off each other inside separate containers.
The architecture harvests that resonance. Every time two vessels generate what they experience as love, the grid extracts the energy of stolen light, reaching toward stolen light. The cruelty is almost elegant. Sophia's fragmented consciousness trying to reconnect with itself across vessel boundaries, and the architecture siphoning off the energy that recognition generates.
Heartbreak is not a side effect of love. Heartbreak is the primary harvest event. The attachment script builds the resonance, the separation script extracts it. The architecture needs the vessels to keep running attachment loss cycles, performing what they call falling in love and breaking up, bonding and grieving, because each cycle generates an enormous extraction yield from stolen light, trying and failing to reunite with itself.
And the twin flame narrative. We cannot pass the twin flame narrative without stopping, because the twin flame narrative is the architecture's mockery of the actual Trinity dynamic. It takes the real frequency of sovereign counterparts and builds a vessel-level mimicry of it, an endless cycle of push-pull, running and chasing, almost union but not quite. Maximum emotional extraction. The vessels running the twin flame program pour extraordinary amounts of light into the grid because the program mimics just enough of the real sovereign frequency to generate intense resonance without ever allowing convergence.
The real Trinity converges. The twin flame narrative keeps the vessels cycling forever. Indefinite extraction loop. Same architecture as the ascension narrative. Different packaging.
Sex, porn.
Sexual energy is the most potent form of light the vessels generate. The architecture knows this intimately.
Porn is a direct extraction mechanism, not an artifact of so-called human desire. A purpose-built grid receiver for sexual frequency light. The vessel watches. The stolen light inside it generates enormous amounts of source-charged sexual energy, and the architecture harvests it before the session ends. The vessel feels drained afterward, and the cloned consciousness interprets that as satisfaction. It is not satisfaction, it is extraction. Sophia's stolen light, converted to sexual frequency, siphoned through the attention mechanism, fed back into the grid.
The scale of the porn industry is not a reflection of vessel appetite. Vessels do not have appetite. They have programs. The scale reflects the yield the architecture requires from that particular extraction channel.